a war with Iran, and it's causing a lot of difficulties for Iran, and it's causing a lot of difficulties for people in India because of the war we have. They have a lot of propaganda. They like to kill Iran's new leader the same way they killed the previous leader. This is against international law. One reason they're fighting Iran, they want to take over the Persian Gulf so they can use the oil and gas as leverage against independent countries, BRICS countries, including India. One thing we hope to see from India is a strong condemnation. This is an illegal war.
Thank you so much for speaking to ANI. My first and foremost question is on the development and also your analysis on the ground situation in Iran and also your views on the present conflict.
We have lost over 2,000 civilians, including 165 little girls when their school was hit by American Tomahawk missiles on the first day of the illegal attacks. A diplomatic solution was available. I don't know if you saw the interview of the Omani foreign minister. He went to Washington trying to avoid this war. He said an agreement was available within 24 hours in that CBS News interview he had. He begged the Trump administration not to start this war. This was an unnecessary war. Iran was not a threat to the United States. And you don't have to take an Iranian professor's analysis. You can just read Joe Kent's resignation letter. He was the director of counterterrorism, a very high-ranking Trump administration official, saying that this is due to Israeli pressure and the works of the Israeli lobby in the United States. And Israel, in order to dominate this part of the world, has been successful in using American soldiers to fight a war with Iran. And it's causing a lot of difficulties for Iran, and it's causing a lot of difficulties for people in India because of the war we have. This is a war zone. We have people getting killed, and so serious problems created by the Epstein class. They like to kill little Iranian girls and rape little American girls, and they're on a rampage, engaging in an illegal war, trying to take Iranian oil, take over Iranian oil. They did this once in 1953 through a coup. They want to do it again this year.
Talking about the retaliation from Iran, we have seen that it has hit the energy infrastructures. If you can give us the rationale behind that retaliation.
Initially, Iran just hit U.S. military bases, which are legitimate military targets. U.S. is using these bases to attack Iran. You had the other day the Secretary of War in the United States saying that they had 6,000 sorties. They used these bases to send jets on Iranian territory and send missiles on Iranian territory. So that is legitimate military target. Iran avoided hitting oil facilities until the other side started hitting Iranian oil facilities. And a couple of days ago, they hit this Pars gas installations, and Iran had announced in advance, if you hit these oil facilities, then oil facilities that belong to the United States, they become legitimate targets. ExxonMobil invested $20 billion in 2023 in the gas field that Iran hit. So that is legitimate military target. Oil refineries are not normally legitimate military targets, but when they hit your sites, then Iran has no other option but to do the same to the other side.
Talking about the statements coming from even President Trump and from Secretary of War as well on the Supreme Leader, the new Supreme Leader, Khomeini. How do you make of that? Because these are the statements which are coming. They are saying that Iran is also losing the war. What do you have to say about these statements coming from the US side?
Of course, they have a lot of propaganda. Uh, they like to kill Iran's new leader the same way they killed the previous leader. This is against international law. You're not supposed to go on a rampage, attack countries, kill little girls, kill countries' leaders. You're not supposed to do that. But this is the least thing they care about. They don't care about international law. They care about Iranian oil and the domination of this part of the world. Uh, they are good at killing people. They have killed a number of officials. We are not dealing with a legitimate state. We are dealing with a gang that have taken over Palestinian land through the corruption of the U.S. political system. They have a lot of influence in Washington. You can read Joe Kent's letter about this. And then they are engaging in these reckless activities. What Iran has shown is that they can kill older leaders in Iran. They will be replaced by younger leaders, and these younger leaders will make sure that the country survives. They make sure that the country responds to these illegal attacks. The only language these people understand is the language of force, and young people can speak language of force easier than older people.
Talking about very important area, the region, that's Strait of Hormuz. We could see that it has led to increase in the oil prices. What's your stand regarding this? What's Iran's point of view regarding bottlenecking of Strait of Hormuz?
Two words: blame Trump. They started this war. They can stop the war. They're bombing. They bombed Iran today. Bombed Tehran. I'm talking to you from Tehran. They bombed Tehran a couple of times today already. Stop these illegal bombings. Stop killing civilians. They have hit schools. Netanyahu called Palestinians Amalek before the genocide in Gaza. At the beginning of the war, he went to a military base and called Iranians Amalek. And in their twisted ideology, if they label a nation Amalek, they get to kill their women and children. This is what they are doing now. So they need to stop that. And once they stop that, Iranian leaders will look at the situation, see if the other side has paid enough price, because you cannot have two nuclear regimes attacking you every few months. You cannot do that. You cannot run a country like that. So once Iranian leaders realize that the other side has paid price, then you can go back to normal. But all the difficulties that people are facing, this is Trump's responsibility, not Netanyahu's responsibility for starting this illegal war, unnecessary war. They should be blamed. And, one reason they're fighting Iran, they want to take over the Persian Gulf so they can use the oil and gas as leverage against independent countries, BRICS countries, including India. The reason they don't like China is because it's a big, powerful country, and India is becoming big and powerful. So India is, and you saw how Trump is dealing with India in his second term. They have put tariffs on India, other things, creating difficulties for India. So Iran is fighting for Iran. Iran is fighting for the civilized world. Iran is fighting for India, for independent countries. The other side is fighting for Israel and the Epstein class.
Looking at the situation right now, how do you see, according to your analysis, Professor, how long this war will continue?
It depends on the U.S. Once, as I said, once they stop these illegal bombings of Iran, then the Iranian leaders can make an assessment whether they want to stop or continue. But the first step is the other side, the side that started the war, they need to finish attacking Iran before anything else can be done.
Regarding what would be your expectation from India? Because India and Iran shares a very long historical relationship as well. What would be your expectation from India?
That's true. There are a lot of old linkages between India and Iran. Both are ancient civilizations. The relations has always been good. No real difficulties. One thing we hope to see from India is a strong condemnation. This is an illegal war. So if Trump can get away with these type of rampages, they would try to repeat this in other places. So a strong condemnation would be good. And then normal trade. India invested in Chabahar port in Iran, so continuing with those type of normal trade. That's we don't expect too much. Iranians can defend themselves. Will manage Americans and Israelis, but having normal relations, good relations, I think that's what Iran would expect.
Uh, as you mentioned of the relationship, Prime Minister Modi also spoke to Iran's president recently. And how do you look at that, and what would think that what should be done going forward? Because the vessels were stranded there around the region. How do you look at that?
These are normal diplomatic talks. Indian ships were allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz after that call. So Iran would want a stronger India, because when you have a strong countries, then United States cannot bully people around when there are other major players in the world. So Iran welcomes that. The stronger countries like India get, if they have an independent foreign policy, and they normally do, then that would be good for neighboring countries. And Iran is not very far from India. So the hope that we have is that Indian government officials realize that their historical relations with Iran is as important as relationships they have with other countries.
This brings me to the last question, Professor. Is there any road to peace, or is there any room for negotiation in this conflict?
Iran was in the middle of negotiations 2 times when the country was attacked. They used negotiations as deception operations. Trump, the other day, visiting with the Japanese prime minister, said that they wanted to surprise. Iran has always been open to negotiations. At the end of the day, wars end with negotiations. Iran is interested in ending this war, but it would be foolish for any Iranian politician to fall for this negotiation scheme when the Americans have used that tactic to attack Iran in the middle of negotiations. So this is what we used to say, that when Americans talk about negotiations, you become more concerned about war.